America made vast leaps in terms of urbanization, prompting a general migration from countryside residents to move into economically developed towns and cities. New technological advancements, such as the first skyscraper of which was built in Chicago in 1885, along with improved transportation as seen with electrical streetcars, capacitated growth within these developing areas. Just as Chicago and other centralized areas innovated technology to allow for increasing immigration within these cities, Boston acquired a conventional subway train to expand populational flow. As the density of cities began to increase due to technological advancements, neighborhoods became distinctly segregated by race and ethnicity due to socioeconomic differences, resulting in a maintenance of easily distinguishable religions and languages instead of the mixing pot of cultures that we know America to be now. Another establishment that arose from this period was political machines, which dominated politics in central areas led by bosses such as William Tweed, who controlled the rank reward supporters with both shelter and jobs to maintain political authority. The 1880s had an influx of immigration from people of southern and eastern Europe and China. In previous generations, immigrants were generally Protestant coming from northern or western Europe, fitting well into American society as they were skilled and literate upon coming to America. The new immigrants, however, were much more diverse in religion, being Catholic, Orthodox, and Jewish, and were much less skilled and literate than the previous wave of immigrants. The reluctance to assimilate into American culture created social friction that induced further segregation. Some of the pull factors for the new generation of immigrants were the political/religious freedom and economic opportunity, while push factors included things such as lack of land, poverty and hardship, and religious persecution. As the new immigrants meshed poorly with American citizens, the Chinese Exclusion Act banned Chinese laborers from immigrating to America, acting as a barrier to decrease social tension through limiting population growth. One of the responses to urbanization and immigration issues was the social gospel, which believed that Christians had a responsibility to deal with urban poverty. One of the leaders, Walter Rauschenbusch, was a Baptist who worked in a poverty-stricken area called Hell's Kitchen. He encouraged many middle-class Protestants to attack urban problems and urged the religious population to take up the cause of social justice.
Many important authors during this time wrote books in effort to reform these problems. For example, Horatio Alger, a story about rags to riches, demonstrates how honesty and hard work leads to success. His book was the reason why Andrew Carnegie migrated to America from Scotland. Another example is Henry George, who wrote a book called Progress and Poverty, which critically examined the inequalities in wealth caused by industrialization and laissez-faire capitalism. Last but not least, Edward Bellarmine, who wrote Looking Backward. It was about a utopian socialist society that has fixed the social and economic injustices of the time. During this time period, public education and the idea of tax-supported elementary schools and high schools gained support. Teacher training schools, called normal schools, experienced great expansion after the Civil War. The new immigration in the 1880s and 1890s brought new strength to the private Catholic parochial schools, which were becoming a major part of the nation's educational structure. Laws that forced children to attend school and obviously increased the number of students enrolled. African Americans are going to have a different and unique view during this era. Booker T. Washington was from the South, and he was an ex-slave. He wrote an autobiography, Up from Slavery, and he talks about how African Americans should acquire vocational skills to gain self-respect and economic security. To help them do this, he establishes an institute called the Tuskegee Institute. He doesn't believe you should directly challenge white supremacy. Some people call him an accommodationist because of his gratitude, approach, and his views on just accepting racism. On the other side of the spectrum, there was Webb Du Bois, who is from the North in Massachusetts. First African American to receive a PhD from Harvard. He helped fund the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People in 1909. But most importantly, unlike Booker T., he wanted immediate political and social equality for African Americans. He wants them to be intellectual and resist prejudice and racism. He hated Booker's gradualism, and he is a critic for Booker T.